So let's plunge right in and get started by looking at the residential real estate crisis, which is ground zero for the recession of 2008, 2009, and all the problems that we define as economic crisis in those years. The banking crisis, the toxic acid crisis, and all those events that eventually led to the bailout of our banking system and the necessity for the federal government to step in and create a stimulus package in order to pull us out of the morass. So take a look now at chart 5.9, which shows new home sales. And of course, you'll find that chart available to you right there in the module that you have before you on your computer. And let's take a look and make sure that everybody sees this the same way. You'll notice that the vertical scale is in thousands, and that the legend itself says all the data is in thousands. Now, what that means for us is that 1,000 thousands is a million, so this bar here indicates a million housing starts, and this bar here indicates 1.4 million housing starts. And notice that around the year 2006, we were up to about 1.4 million housing starts. This chart covers all the years from 1950 right through the present day. And look at this huge upswing that led us to where we are today. And if you focus on that, you focus on that upswing, you'll see that the recent housing boom was much, much stronger than any housing boom we've had before. Look at the housing booms of the 1970s, 1980s, 1990s. Oh, they got up to about 800,000 new homes sold. So at the peak of those economic expansions, maybe we had 800,000 new homes sold. Look what happened in the recent housing boom. Much higher number, 1.4 million, 1,400,000 homes sold. Well, what happened? Interesting thing. You'll notice that you'll notice these dips here, and these dips indicate recessions in the previous years. You'll see we've had a recession in the mid-1970s, was a recession in the early 80s, recession in the early 90s. In those instances, new home sales plunged. The plunge in new home sales, part and parcel of the recession. But you'll also recall the dot-com boom of 1995 to the year 2000. And then the dot-com bust that dragged us into recession after that. Well, lo and behold, during the dot-com bust, you can see on the chart, no slump in housing. So we had a recession without a housing slump. What was the core of the recession? The slump in technology. What did the Federal Reserve do during all the earlier housing slumps in order to pull us out of those slumps? During the earlier slumps, the Federal Reserve reduced interest rates in order to make mortgage borrowing easier so people could go ahead and buy homes, and that would pull us out of recession. Well, sure enough, if you take a look at 2001, 2002, the Federal Reserve reduced interest rates in order to pull us out of recession, but that recession was a technology recession. It wasn't a housing recession. And so when the Federal Reserve reduced the interest rates, housing was stimulated even though there was no slump. And so rather than housing increasing from the floor up to the ceiling, we were at a ceiling already, and so housing broke through the ceiling and went right up into the second floor to levels we've never seen before. And if you look at the chart, you can see housing went all the way up to about 1,400,000 homes sold in that year. Well, that was the sign of a tremendous real estate boom. Houses, of course, their prices went up, up, up as the demand for housing grew. Low interest rates inspired people, provided the incentive to go out and buy. And of course, as the prices got higher and higher, that created an acid inflation. People plunged in the real estate market, buying homes in order to take advantage of a future rise in home prices. Well, we all know what happened. The prices went up in 2001, 2002, 2003. But finally, by 2006, people had bid the price of homes out of any reasonable comparison to their rental value. And sure enough, as soon as the realization struck that home prices were far out of line with rents, down came the value of those homes. And as the house prices began to plunge, the home sales began to slacken. And the further the home prices fell, the weaker the home sales got. Why would folks go out and buy a new home now if the prices are falling? Why not wait till tomorrow, see if the prices are lower? And sure enough, if you take a look at the chart, you'll see that the home prices fell, the level of home sales fell from about 1,400,000 all the way down to just about 300,000. A real catastrophe, and that's the sign of the crisis. That's the sign of the recession that dragged everything else down with it. Because once those home sales plunged and once residential construction plunged, the whole economy was sucked down into recession by that decline in residential real estate.